What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Paul. I make videos about Japanese society, life, and culture from the viewpoint of a long-term foreign resident. I've been in Japan for going on 19 years. And the two questions that I get asked the most by people in America, by people in Japan, both foreigners and Japanese alike, is what do I like most about Japan and what do I miss most about the US? Now on the channel I talk about Japan all the time, so I thought today I would get into the latter question. What do I actually miss about the USA after all this time, considering I've been away for so long? And if you live in a foreign country and you miss some things from your home country, please comment below what you miss. And if any of the things that I bring up today surprise you or interest you, please comment about that below as well. Now let's get straight into the first one without further ado, and that is I miss my old time zone, living in Central Standard Time, the Midwest of the US. I'm from Wisconsin. And I'm not talking about daylight savings time, changing the clock in the spring and the fall or anything like that. I just miss how the day was situated in terms of daylight. You see, the Central Standard Time, you kind of could wake up at sunrise in the summertime, like 6 a.m., and you would get home after work before the sunset or shortly thereafter. And in the summertime, like July and August, I remember you could sit out on a patio or a balcony and it would still be daylight, basically residual light from the sunset until as late as 9 p.m., depending on the time of the year. Japan, I always feel the time zone is wrong. Like, we should really be 1 hour into the future. So I'm filming this at about noon today, and I believe it really should be 1 p.m. because, especially in the summer, it's light outside at 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. when everyone's still asleep. And then by 5, 6 o'clock, it's dark, which to me just seems like a lot of beautiful summer daylight being wasted. And in the winter time, I mean, 4 to 5 p.m., it's already getting dark. It's really depressing to leave work when it's already been dark for an hour or two. So yeah, I miss the old time zone of Central Standard Time in the Midwest because it just felt right that you got the maximum amount of daylight when you were just going about your daily business. Okay, the second thing I really miss is probably one that would be commonly mentioned by just about anyone who lives in a foreign country, and that is food. But the truth is, after all these years of living in Japan, there really aren't that many things that I miss. I've just become completely used to the cuisine and the food here. We actually don't eat out a whole lot, and we usually cook in, so we make a variety of things at home that we like. And if we do eat out, well, I mean, it's a special occasion, and you really can't complain about the restaurant scene in Japan. It is pretty wonderful. But there are a few things I could say that I miss. The first being from Wisconsin, really lovely, aged, expensive cheddar cheese. I'm talking about the 8-year, 10-year, 15-year aged cheddar. You just can't find that in Japan. The cheddars here that you can get kind of the standard mild or sharp cheddar blocks, and they sell a lot of cheese from New Zealand and Australia. And I'm sorry if you're from there, but it's terrible. It sucks. Like, the Australian cheddar cheese, I never buy it because it's just nasty. Now, British cheddar cheese is amazing. I love the British cheddar cheese, so I don't know what went wrong in you Commonwealth countries, but the second thing that I would really mention missing is really authentic foods from other countries and cultures. I feel like in many ways Japan right now is America in the 80s. Now, America has really gotten much and much better about having restaurants and cafes that when you go there, it really is authentic food, and it's no longer the menus have been changed to fit American tastes. I mean, of course, those places still exist, but the sort of foodie revolution that happened in America has made a lot more authentic food available. Japan, it's getting better. It is changing, but it's not there yet. You're you're really getting watered down, standardized Japanese taste when you go to a ethnic restaurant or something like that. The ingredients will be changed, the flavor profiles will be different. Certainly spice levels will not be very high because in general Japanese don't do spice. And so like Thai food and Vietnamese food or like Szechuan Chinese food will kind of lose some of its real flavor because it won't be hot enough. The final one I'm going to mention, I'm not going to talk a lot about, doesn't need much explanation. It's a polarizing food. When I mention it, half of you will think, oh, I love that stuff, and half of you will think, that is disgusting, you're not even human. I happen to really love black licorice, and that is something that 99.9% of Japanese people hate, and therefore you can't get it anywhere. Not even on Amazon. They can't order it online. It's just really hard to find because no one likes it here, and so there's no market for it. And this is where Australians get their revenge, because your soft chewing Australian black licorice happens to be my favorite. I used to buy it in the States, and yeah, it's something that I really love, and it's better than the American or the European stuff in my opinion. So no to your cheese, yes to your licorice. Okay, the next thing that I miss about the US is a very obvious one, but there's a particular point I want to bring up, and that is I really miss family and friends, of course. But the reason why I'm bringing it up in this particular video is because it needs to be noted that it's particularly harsh right now because of how weak the yen is. All of you who are thinking about coming to Japan on a trip as a tourist, it's great for you right now because Japan is really cheap. You can buy yen really inexpensively. But for me, who is paid in yen and has all of my life expenses in yen, it's rough right now. If I want to take my wife and child back to the States for a visit, we're looking at basically 750,000 to 800,000 yen to get to the Midwest. Like if we lived in LA, it would be a lot cheaper, but Midwest is where we have to go. And in practical terms, that's $7,500 to $8,000 just in transportation before we've spent money on anything else. And so that's just not sustainable. It's just not affordable. It's basically, wipes out a huge chunk of savings. It's definitely more than 1 month's salary. And it's just, it's a rough price to pay right now for those of us who are living in yen. And so missing the family and friends and knowing that it's, or rather not knowing when we're going to be able to get back to visit them again is not pleasant. I suppose this is a good opportunity to say, hey, you could help support the channel by hitting the like and the subscribe button, maybe hitting the thanks button or becoming a patron over on Patreon. These videos still cost me more to make them than I make from the videos, so if you could help out, that would be great. If not, just to like and subscribe is really the best way to help the channel and share the videos that you think others would be interested in. Commercial out of the way, I have two more that I'm going to mention. The first is just a short one, and then the last one is more culturally consequential. The first one is clothes that fit. Luckily, I am a body type that is not difficult to size in Japan. I'm not incredibly tall or big. My shoe size is pretty normal. The main thing that doesn't work for me is pants and shoulders, like shirts and jackets because of my shoulders. In Japan, you'll see extra large jackets that are like 43 centimeters across the shoulders, which is how that's an extra large, I have no idea. I'm about a 46 to 48 centimeter shoulder width, and so sleeves, chest, everything could be perfect on a jacket, but it just is too tight across the top. And when it comes to pants, like the waist and the length will be perfect, but my legs just can't get into the leg holes. Like my thighs and calves are just too big, and they're not even skinny jeans or whatever. It's just I don't have the typical thin Asian legs. So those are two things that I run into from time to time, and as a result I never order clothes online unless the sizes are really clear and clearly my size. Now, the last one is the most culturally significant. And it's not a big one. I'm going to be upfront and say that it's not a huge issue, but it is something I notice when I go back to the States, is a sort of mask or a costume drops off of me. And it's just because Japanese culture is so attuned to what others are doing, and everyone's paying attention to their behavior so as not to be a nuisance to others or to stand out in the crowd. And therefore, living in Japan, you kind of adopt this cape of anonymity, try not to stand out. You know that people are watching you or paying more attention to your behavior, especially as a visibly non-Japanese person. You know, I'm going to stand out more than ordinary people to begin with. So I have to be more cognizant of my behavior. But it's something I'm completely used to. Like, I don't think about it. I've been here 20 years, so I've 20 years to adapt and be part of the societal cultural norms on the daily basis. And I've been through enough special events like weddings and funerals and the like to actually know how to behave at those as well. But when I go back to the States, I notice kind of a relief, a relaxation. I don't have to think about what other people are thinking of me. I mean, call it privilege or whatever, but I can now blend into society. But it's not even that. It's just the fact that Americans don't care what people think around you. I've told this analogy or this story on the channel before, which is the first time I traveled to a country outside of Japan that was new, that wasn't going back to the States, was Italy. And I found myself for the first 2 days in Italy trying really carefully to watch how the Italians did things and trying to fit in and not stand out, until I realized, oh, no one cares and no one is paying attention and everyone just kind of does their own thing, and it's not a problem. It's not the same kind of blanket of societal expectations as you have in Japan. Now, I'm not saying this as a negative thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing about Japan. It's one of the reasons why the culture and society runs so smoothly. So it's not a negative thing. It's just that I do notice a palpable relief happen when I'm in the States. Like, my whole demeanor kind of changes. And then when I come back to Japan, I just reassume my life here and I don't even think about it. It just feels natural to do both of them. So neither one is right nor wrong. It's just, it is what it is. But what I miss is that feeling. Like, when I go back to the States, I'm like, oh, that's right, I remember this. I can just kind of go about my daily business and not worry what others are thinking. And that kind of freedom, or that kind of refreshing space from other people, is kind of nice. And if we're being perfectly honest, Japanese feel this as well. When my wife lived in the States with me, she loved it. She was happy that she didn't have to be constantly worried about what others thought or what others were watching her, or et cetera, et cetera. It's not just foreigners living in Japan who feel this or understand this. The Japanese do too. Like, that's why so many Japanese enjoy living in foreign countries, because they kind of escape from that same scrutiny. Okay, let us know in the comments what you miss from your home country, or what you really think you would miss if you moved to a foreign country yourself. Join the conversation below. I want to thank you very much for watching this particular video and for continuing to support the channel. Thank you so much. Again, shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. There are a couple of paid members now, and I really appreciate that. It makes me feel like I'm doing something with this channel that people feel is valuable. And again, I'm going to be putting some early clips of my what to do in Yokohama video that should come out at the end of March. I'll be putting early clips over on the Patreon, so if you want to join and check those out, by all means, do so. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.